I'm retired Nigerian journalist, pharmacist and PR specialist, Kemi Olunlaya, Dr. Kemi. It's December 3rd, 2025. I just watched Arise News with Aisha Sachet, a Sierra Leonean journalist that used to be on CNN. A lot of you knew her on CNN. If you're working for the mainstream media, especially a global news media like CNN, you become famous around the world. But what happens when you leave CNN? These names fade away. And that's why I always tell journalists that go to CNN to be humble. Like Stephanie Busari, what she did to me some 5, 6 years ago. Didn't know that I worked there. Didn't know any capacity. She describes it. She decided to disgrace me on Twitter. And at the end of the day, she had to keep quiet because I actually put CNN on the phone. CNN is a big place. People that work on the East Coast don't know people that work on the West Coast. There are bureaus around the world, and there's a lot going on. Well, going to the point, Aisha Sachet said something on Arise this morning about the African story. Dr. Ruben Abati asked her about, do we need CNNs and the Al Jazeeras and all the big networks around the world before we can tell the African story? And she mentioned the fact that it helps, but to do such a thing in Africa is very expensive. It's going to cost a lot of money. Now, she viewed CNN as the one with all the money. First of all, a billionaire owns CNN. He sold it to Time Warner. You know, Ted Turner started CNN in 1980. I was 16 years old. I was watching that first broadcast. I'm 61 now. Journalism is a rough draft of history, and history shapes the past, the present, and the future. That's why we go back and we move forward and we talk about the present. So a lot of you don't understand that in news, there are all kinds of phases of news. There's a lot of stories that have never been reported because of many reasons: retribution, harm, lawsuits, and much more. Yeah, lawsuits, even real stories. So what I'm doing in 2025 is I'm going to create a platform that's already open on Facebook only. In my retirement, I'm going to be telling you stories in AI. The page is open. It's called Dr. Kemi AI. So just Google it or just search Facebook, Dr. Kemi AI. Right now, I'm teaching a free AI course for beginners. So if you don't want to pay, go and learn all I'm teaching free. This is day 4. I will be telling stories of real life, things that happened that you don't want to believe it happened. Okay. A Nigerian celebrity, female, decided that she wanted a baby and she was getting too old. So she froze her eggs. She spoke about freezing eggs years ago. It's a good thing for young women to do because when you decide to have, want to have a baby and you don't have a husband or a man or a partner, you can still have a baby. Technology. I'm going to talk about that story on AI. She went ahead and went to the UK and got the sperm of a white man, and her eggs were taken out of the freezer, fertilized with the white man's sperm. You can pick which one you want. If you want a white man, a black man, an Asian man, you can pick whatever sperm you want in the sperm bank. It was fertilized, and the next thing is IVF, where they're now planted into that celebrity, and then she'll get pregnant, and then her baby bump will show and all that. But in her case, she did it the easiest way. Instead of planting in her, she hired a surrogate. A British lady carried the pregnancy for 9 months, and then after the baby dropped, she did a very smooth surrogate exchange, and her baby is just her baby. That's her child. Baby, we never know the father because the sperm came from a sperm bank. This is how it's going to be in the AI life. In about 70 years' time, all these things will be possible, and you won't need to know your dad or mom or whatever. So you have to be getting ready for this stuff. And she's out there flaunting her baby all over the internet, doing her motherhood thing, and that's her right. But if you were to report a story like that, straight up with names and everything, Nigerians will attack you. They don't like the truth. You know? So many stories I've told, and you attacked me. I will tell you even more in AI. That way, when I change the names and the story is real, your jaws will drop and you'll be wondering who it is. I'll never tell you who it is. You will have to guess yourself. To Aisha Sachet, what did she say today about being expensive to start your own African CNN? It's really not that. The problem with the African story is it cannot be told because the media outlets in Africa are owned by the politician and businessmen. The politicians who rule us are the ones owning the media houses in America. Media ownership cannot be by a politician. I hope you know that. Politicians and businessmen are strictly restricted from media ownership until a few years ago when the business world changed that stance. They fought it and they won. That's why you can see Amazon's Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post. So politicians cannot in any way, though, own a media house in America. One of the things about media houses in America is they have to do endorsement of politicians. So that's the conflict right there. If the New York Times is endorsing Hillary Clinton, how can Hillary Clinton own another newspaper or another TV station? Because that TV station still has to give endorsement to politicians during election time. So you understand what I'm telling you. The Nigerian media have not taught you all this stuff. They don't do nonsense. Okay, they don't do nothing. They do nonsense rather. Okay, the owners of their stations are the ones that command them what they have to do. The assignment editors are even commanded by the owners. This is the reason why my own father, my late father, could go to a TV station and tell them not to hire me and not to publish anything I say. Have you seen any of my works, any of my videos, any of my viral works? Have you seen it in Punch, Tribune, this day? Have you seen my works anywhere? No, you wouldn't see it because my dad instructed them. The politicians and the businessmen run the media in Nigeria and most of Africa. The businessmen, okay, who we felt we could trust, are friends with the politicians. And the politicians give them the space and the arena to actually do what they want. I'll give you an example. There is a reporter, no, I wouldn't mention the reporter's name. I have to protect him. He's still at Channels. In 2019, during the election, a bullion van entered President Tinubu's house in Bardaland. When that bullion van entered, that's a bank van with money. The money in that bullion van was used for the elections to pay people to vote for Tinubu or vote for Buhari rather. So Buhari was running second term. So a lot of people assume, hey, so you're gonna pay people. It's something that's banned right now. Okay, even Buhari himself, when he was outgoing, he changed the currency just to ban people from paying for votes, vote buying, they call it. So when that bullion van went into Tinubu's compound, I asked this journalist at Channels. I didn't bother to ask journalists at TVC because Tinubu owns TVC. She's the chairman and founder. So the Channels reporter was like, "Are you not going to cover that?" And what did he tell me? He said, "Oh, Tinubu is friends with John Momo, our owner. John Momo is a businessman that owns Channels. And being Tinubu, being friends of Tinubu, why would Momo Station, you know, report a story where a bullion van is going into Tinubu's compound for vote buying purposes? So do you see where the conflict of interest is? If you have a problem with your local government chairman and he asks thugs to come and beat your mother up and stuff, who do you report to? The police, right? Okay. But what about media that'll put your story out there because your mother was injured? You can't go to Tinubu station, TVC, because that local government chairman is an APC member and friends with Tinubu. So the same people frustrating you, you can't go to them. So media is distorted so badly in Africa. Now, when you go to Ghana and you see how media is done in Ghana, most of the businessmen own the Ghanaian station, but they're also friends with the Ghanaian politicians. So it kind of becomes tricky. So many Ghanaians told me that all their news anchors and reporters, they're all paid by the politicians to distort the news. They give them nice cars, Range Rovers, nice houses, everything. And I saw that myself in Ghana. So what Aisha was saying, okay, will take 1,000 years. Until you have a law that bans media ownership from politicians and businessmen, Africa can never have its own CNN. And the African story will have to be told on social media. And that's what they were discussing when I left the broadcast, how social media will be the storyteller and AI. I'm Kemi Olunloyo, Dr. Kemi. Join me at Dr. Kemi AI. January 1st, stories begin. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year 2026.